Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried & Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for supporting and believing in me. Also, a shout out to my sponsors, Maury Nutrition. They have a calm drink. They're their official drink of the BeliefCast now, which is thank you guys for supporting me. Wasatch Recovery, Siegfried & Jensen, and Thread Wallets. You guys are amazing. You're amazing companies with amazing people, and I appreciate your support. And all of you tuning in weekly, that means a lot to me. Thank you, and thanks for sharing these and supporting our cause. I bring on some amazing people every single week, and it just seems to always be amazing. And so today's going to be no different. We're joined by Cesar Castro.
Exactly.
I said that right?
Yes,
okay.
You said it perfectly.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited because I'm really big into the story we tell ourselves personally, and you're like the master of storytelling. You teach people how to be better storytellers.
Yeah.
Right. Is that, if we were to sum it up?
If you were to sum it up, I think you could have summed it up better. I literally just help people tell good stories.
Yeah. And we're going to get into that. I'm excited. So Cesar is a psychologist. He's got 2 master's degrees, one in organizational psychology, the other in professional communications. He's also an adjunct professor of public speaking at Weber State University here in Utah, which is really cool. You have founded 3 companies. You help business leaders and entrepreneurs develop more influence and impact through, again, strategic storytelling. You're also the host of one of the top podcasts in Latin America. You've also started one here.
Yes.
In English. So the one in Latin America is in Spanish, correct?
Yeah.
And then the one here is in English.
Yes.
Obviously.
We're just getting started with that.
Just getting started. And then you truly believe that all great leaders are great storytellers, and that's why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And so thank you for being here. I know you've had a busy day. You've been running around to appointments. It's snowing.
Yes.
And you're here though. So man, that means a lot. So thank you for doing that and spending some time with us today.
No, thank you for the invitation. It's been great to connect. We connected through LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's how we connected.
And then we started talking a little bit, and then you invited me on the podcast. And I'm super excited because I've also seen all the great interviews you've done and the impact that you're generating.
Thank you.
I was like, I feel honored to be part of
cool.
that group of great people that you invite on your show.
Yeah, right on. Well, hey, before we get into all the good things you're doing now, let's talk a little bit about where you grew up and maybe a little bit about your childhood so we get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. So I'm originally from Chile, from South America. I was born there. And my family actually moved to the States when I was about 7. And the reason why we moved, the reason why we came to Utah actually was because my youngest brother was born with a condition that's called hydrocephalus. And in Chile, the doctors, they really didn't know how to help him very much. And they didn't give him, his life expectancy was just a few months.
Oh, wow. And
my dad always tells me that when the doctors came to him and said, hey, look, your son's not going to live very long. I don't know if you guys should really do much because he'll just probably live a few months. My dad said, no, I can't. Like, as a father, you can't accept that, right?
Right.
You're going to look for whatever options or whatever different ways, avenues you have to help your son. And for him, his best avenue was to come here. He actually had a friend who lived here in Utah, and his friend told him that a good option would be to see if they could help him in Primary Children's, the Primary Children's Hospital.
Right, yeah, great hospital.
Yeah, one of the best pediatric hospitals.
Sure.
And we moved here to the States. My dad actually came with a student visa because it was like the quickest way to come here. But the real reason was for my brother, was to see if maybe they could help him extend his life a little bit.
Yeah.
And when he got here, actually the doctors at Primary Children's, they saw him and they even told my parents, look, his condition is pretty critical. He might only live 1 or 2 years.
Man.
But that was better than a few months,
Sure.
which was what they were saying in Chile. And my brother Juanito, he actually lived 22 years.
Wow.
So he overcame all the the expectations, even of the doctors here. And because of that, obviously my family ended up staying here in the United States. And to me, I always I always say that one of the reasons why I also love telling stories, my brother Juanito, he never could communicate. He wasn't, he was mentally like a 3-month-old baby,
Really?
right? Even though physically he was growing as a man.
Yeah.
But he never could speak and communicate with words. He would mainly just cry or smile if he was happy. And I've always felt that I had a really close connection with him. I always felt that a lot of the stories and a lot of stories that I do tell, even in the corporate world, are stories about Juanito.
Okay.
It's a way to kind of keep his legacy and tell the stories that he could never tell.
It's beautiful.
So I grew up here in the States because of that. And when I turned 19, I served an LDS mission.
Okay.
And I was called to Uruguay in South America.
Wow.
So I went and served for 2 years in Uruguay, which was a great experience. And once I finished my mission, since I was so close to Chile, I decided to go to Chile because I had never been back since I was 6 years old. So even though I knew I was from Chile, like I felt, I didn't really feel connected to Chile because I had left when I was so little.
Right.
And just my teenage years and things were here. So I went back to Chile, and initially I was going to be there for a few months just to travel. Chile is a beautiful country from a really long country as well. So you got a little bit of everything.
Sure.
And in my trip, I met a girl, a Chilean girl, who is now my wife.
Now your wife. Right.
So I ended up staying in Chile because I fell in love with a Chilean woman.
It's a good reason to stay.
It's a good reason to stay, and ended up staying and was there for 20 years.
Wow.
So I studied there. I studied psychology. Then I did a master's in organizational psychology. Worked in the corporate world for a few years, and then decided to start my own company in consulting and training. Initially, it was leadership development. That was my focus. I was always intrigued by great leaders. It was always something I was attracted to.
Sure.
And I started working in leadership development. I was working with some big companies. And what I started realizing as I was working with leaders is, and this was pretty surprising to me, honestly, because I was working with top management from big multinational companies. And I always thought that if you get to certain positions in an organization, it's probably because you're a great communicator and inspiring and motivational, because those were the leaders that always caught my attention.
Sure. Yeah. Same here.
And as I started working with these top management leadership position guys, I was surprised to see that they weren't good communicators. I mean, they were really bright, smart people, and, numbers and statistics and all that. They have it. Yeah. But it gets to a point also in an organization where you're in certain positions where 80-90% of your day is communication. Yeah. And how you communicate, and if you're inspiring, if you're motivational, and what caught my attention was that they couldn't do that. And I was naturally, I say naturally because I did learn storytelling when I was a kid at school, and I competed, and I even won the national storytelling competition when I was 12 years old.
Did you really?
And I got invited to the Timpanogos Storytelling Festival and everything as a 12-year-old.
So you knew as a young kid, this is your niche.
The truth is I loved storytelling because I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I was creative, and I loved just creating stories, but I never thought that it was going to be something that I was going to be doing afterwards. So I had a certain advantage because I learned to communicate well since, from when I was a kid, like public speaking, because storytelling is a lot of it is public speaking. Yeah. But it got to a point when you learn something as a child that you don't see it as a great skill. It's just something you do. Yeah. Right. So when I was, now as an entrepreneur, and I've got my consulting firm, and I'm doing trainings and things like that, to me, it came easy. But I didn't think nothing of it. I didn't think it was like some extraordinary skill set or anything. I just love telling stories. And when I would train leaders, I would use even personal stories and connect it to business principles. And I remember one of my clients that I was training a bunch of managers, and one of them I established a really good relationship with him. And one day we were like in a coaching session, and he said to me, he's like, Cesar, how do you do it to tell, like, how do you tell stories like that? Like, you were training our team the other day, and you told like a personal story about your childhood, and then you connected it to like a business. How do you do that? Yeah. And I had never even thought about how I do that because I was just doing it.
Because it was just natural.
It was just natural.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, good question. Why, you want to learn that? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to learn that. Like, I think that is, if I can do that as a leader, I can inspire and motivate my team. And I want to be able to do that because I think that if you can use stories in your communication, we make it much more engaging, much more
For
entertaining.
sure. It's interesting. People want to hear more.
Yeah, it's not just numbers and
Yeah, exactly.
So I started actually, this was like in 2015, 16, I started working with this leader, right? And I started teaching him storytelling, but I was doing it just like almost, it wasn't even part of the project, right? Part of the consulting project. I was just doing it because he was asking me to do it. And I was working at the same time with like 20 managers. And at the end of the project, after like 1 year, we were doing this transformational project. At the end of the project, human resource, they start evaluating who's having the best results. And this manager, the one I was teaching storytelling to, his results were extraordinary. And his teams were engaged, and they were going to the meetings, and they were excited. So I remember one of the girls from HR, she came up to me, she's like, what are you doing with him differently? Because it's different than what the other ones are doing.
Yeah, right.
And I said, well, I mean, I'm not charging you guys extra or anything, but I'm teaching him storytelling. She's like, you're teaching him what?
Yeah.
Storytelling. And she's like, I want you to do that with everyone. Because it's like he's having different results. Like his level of connection with his team and how motivated his team is different than all the other ones.
Yeah.
We want you to teach storytelling to everyone. And that was like the first time that the light bulb came on that, oh, I have something here.
Yeah, I can do this.
That others want, that others need, and that I'm really good at.
Wow. Because
that was my skill set.
Yeah.
And this was like 2015, 16. So that whole year I started kind of creating a methodology, and I was trying it out and seeing if it was working. And then it just started picking up and picking up and picking up. And then I just even pivoted my whole business, which was more leadership development, to just strategic storytelling.
Wow.
And that's what I've been doing ever since. Yeah.
That is amazing. And you mentioned something, about your brother who's now passed, but he lived sounds like 20 years longer than everyone thought because of what the doctors were saying. But you mentioned that he wasn't able to communicate. And you alluded to that you feel like that was maybe one of the reasons why maybe you're maybe more passionate about storytelling, because almost like you were the mouthpiece for him, if you will, and then it was a way to honor him.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. As a kid, like I have 4 siblings, right? So my oldest brother, my oldest sister, but they're like 7 years apart from me, right?
Okay.
So my oldest brother, my older sister, they're close in age, but then my parents waited like 6 or 7 years before having me. And then with Juanito, we were only a few years apart, like 3 or 4 years apart.
Okay.
So it almost felt like, okay, my older brother and my older sister, they both liked the same thing. They were into music and dancing, and my brother's actually a DJ here in Utah County, very well-known DJ.
Oh, really?
Here in Utah County. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
And my sister, she, for some time during her like early adulthood and stuff, she was a professional dancer. Right. Okay. So they were into music. I wasn't into music very much. I was into sports, and I just loved stories. With Juanito, what I would do, since he couldn't communicate, is I would play with him. And the way I would play with him is by telling like stories, and I would even simulate like his voice as if he was speaking to me.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
Which I think now, looking back at it and kind of doing a psychological analysis, is what helped me kind of develop my creativity as a kid. Yeah. Because I wanted him to be involved in the games that I was playing, and when I had like little cars or little G.I. Joes, I wanted him to be involved, but obviously he couldn't communicate, so I would create his voice as if he was communicating with me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I was really developing was the ability to tell stories.
Yeah.
Without even noticing that I was developing that ability.
So were you a pretty confident kid, do you feel like, when you were growing up? Because you were doing public speaking really early.
But you know what? Like, to be honest, when I was a kid, like 6, 7, when we moved to the States, I was very shy. Okay. I was very shy, very timid, very insecure, right? When we moved to the States, I think actually my insecurity went up like 10 levels because now I couldn't even understand the people.
Well, yeah.
Because I didn't even have any, I had no English background when we moved.
Wow.
So I still remember my first few months when I was just 6 or 7 and I would go to school. The first few months I didn't speak at all, and I didn't want to speak. The teacher had me sitting next to her to try to help me out, but my mind the whole time I was thinking like, please don't call on me. I didn't want anyone to come say hi to me because I felt so uncomfortable. I felt so insecure communicating.
Yeah.
And about 3 months in, so I was now understanding a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you're 6, 7, 3, 4 months, you start picking up the language. So I could understand and I could speak a little bit. I still remember Monday morning, I get to class early, go sit down right next to the teacher. She comes up to me and she had learned a few Spanish words, right, to try to communicate with me. So she was like, Cesar, ¿cómo estás? How are you doing? I was, I'm doing great. Thank you. And then she said, Cesar, today, hoy, to storytell. To contar historia, you tell a story. And I acted like I didn't understand, even though I knew what she was asking.
Oh, really?
Okay, because every Monday she would do like the show and tell.
Yeah,
like kids do show and tell.
Sure.
She would do that every Monday, but she would ask just randomly like 3 or 4 kids every Monday to get up in front of class and tell a little story about what they had done on the weekend, or bring something and talk about it, tell a story. Like, I think it was her way of getting kids to get comfortable with public speaking.
Right.
And she had never called on me before, obviously, because I couldn't speak, right? And she calls on me this time, and I acted like I didn't understand. So I said to her, no entiendo, no entender. And
no inglés.
And then I just looked down the floor, and she just smiled at me, and she like now started her class. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, that's enough, right? Like, I told her I can't speak, so she's not going to call. I'm off the hook. So she starts calling different kids to come up and
and
share their story. And then all of a sudden I hear, Cesar, it's your turn. Tu turno. Literally, Todd, my heart stopped. Like, really? I still remember this so vividly because it was so impactful for me. My heart just, and obviously I'm 6, 7 years old. I'm not going to rebel against the teacher, right? So I get up and I start walking to the front of class with my knees shaky, my heart going 1,000 miles per hour. And once I get up to the front of the class, I turn around and I look at all my classmates, and they're all staring at me. Like 30 kids are all staring at me, and I'm just like, and with my Tarzan English that I had at that time, I tried to tell a little story of something that I had done with my family on the weekend. And to me, it felt like I was up there forever. I was probably up there for like 30 seconds, right? So I tell this little story that I didn't even know if they had understood or not. And then I went and sat down. And when I sat down, I looked at the floor, and I was just thinking the whole time in my head, you did horrible.
Oh, man.
You did horrible. They didn't understand you. They didn't like you. My mind was just negative the whole time. And when I finally got the will, the bravery to look up and look at my classmates, something happened that day, which actually changed everything for me. Because that day, when I finally looked up, all my classmates, they were staring back at me, and they were all giving me a thumbs up.
Really?
They were all giving me a thumbs up.
Oh, man.
And that, to me, you were asking me if I was a confident kid. Before that moment, I wasn't. After that moment, I was.
Wow. So it was like a life-changing moment for you.
That was a before and after.
Yeah.
And I always, when I share this experience, because I've shared this experience before, I always say that was the first time that I remember in my young, 6, 7-year-old life that I felt the power of telling a story. Man. And felt the power of, I got up and I didn't even tell a good story probably, right? I don't even remember what I said, but just getting up and just trying it generated something that I had never felt before. And especially the connection that I was able to get with my classmates, that I think someone for like first time, they're like, oh, this kid is like, he can say something, right? Because I had never even talked in class. Yeah. And from that day on, I just enjoyed that so much, that feeling, that every Monday now when I'd get to class, I'd be the first one raising my hand, like, I wanted to go up. I want to participate. And obviously, as I participated more, I got better and better and better. Yeah. And then she started inviting me to compete. They had like a school storytelling competition. I started competing, and then I won that. And then they took me to the regional, and then they took me to the national storytelling competition. And when I was 12, I won that competition and got invited to Timpanogos Storytelling Festival.
In English, right?
In English.
Wow.
Everything in English.
See, that makes it even more impressive. It's impressive anyways, but then you throw in, you're learning a new language at the same time. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine me going to Chile and trying to speak Spanish to everyone and trying to tell a story at the same time. I mean, that's impressive to me. Yeah. And I would imagine when you meet with clients and you're training them, it's probably they're probably telling you about the fear that they have. Like, I don't even know how am I going to do this.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you did in that class. Like, you just need to go up and go for it.
Yeah.
Is that one of the things you're trying to push them to do?
When it comes to speaking, when it comes to communication, I always say, like, the only way you can get good at it is by doing it.
Yeah.
There's obviously techniques and there's methods that will help you. But when it comes to an art form like communication, the only way you can be good at it is by doing it. Yeah. The only way you can become a good storyteller is by telling stories. Right. Obviously, if you know the method, it can help you craft the story better. It can help you to practice it and know where to put the pauses and how to use your gestures. All those things are good because they will help you be more engaging and more powerful when you communicate. But when it all comes down to it, all those skill sets can't be developed unless you're willing to get up and just give it a shot.
And give it a shot.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you're obviously, I mean, I can even tell the way you speak with good power. You know what I mean? You really do. And you're very clear and concise. Obviously, that's part of the practice and the passion you have around all this. So why is storytelling so important? And you say if you're a good leader, you have to be good at storytelling. And will you talk about the contrast there and why that's so important? I mean, I think I understand it, but let's let our listeners know, like, what does that look like? Yeah.
So the first thing we have to understand is that as human beings, we're all storytellers. Mm-hmm. We are storytelling creatures. The way that we make sense of the world in our heads is through stories, right? Yeah. When something happens to us, when we see something externally going on, we don't just look at it objectively. Yeah. We create a story in our mind to try to understand what's going on. Right. So first we have to understand that we're constantly just surrounded by stories. In our head, we're understanding the world in stories. Yeah. So what tends to happen, and this is why I think that all leaders need to be good storytellers, is we get into the business world, if we're talking about business leaders, for example, and now we start talking about numbers and statistics, and we as human beings, we're not naturally built for that. Our brain is not naturally built for that. That's why if I were to show you a slide with 100 numbers, you wouldn't remember many of them. Right. Right. Yeah. But if I were to show you an image and I were to tell you a story, there's statistics and there's research that shows that stories are 20 times more memorable than just communicating information, data, statistics. So a lot of what happens in the business world today is leaders are just really good at communicating statistics and numbers, right? Yeah. And they think that that's what will be remembered. So what I tell them a lot of times is the reason why people aren't acting and doing things after you communicate is not, I mean, sometimes it might be that they don't like you and they just don't want to pay attention to you. But most of the time it's that they don't even remember what you said. Right. Right. So they were in a meeting with you for an hour and probably what they'll remember is the funny meme that they got, on their phone. Right. Or maybe that one joke that you did share, if you did share a joke. Yeah. That's what they'll remember. Yeah. They won't remember slide number 5 or slide number 6. For sure. Right. So the reason why I talk about strategic storytelling, not just storytelling, which is the art of communication through stories, strategic storytelling has to do with the art of persuasion and influence through stories, which is a little bit different, right? Right. Obviously, you're still communicating, but what I always talk about is, as leaders, we need to learn how to use stories, since it's already a powerful tool, communication tool that we have, and it's the way that we make sense of the world, right? Yeah. So we have to learn how to use that tool to be able to communicate our message, to be able to communicate our idea. Okay. So there's a quote that I read a while back from Dwight Eisenhower. He was a general and president. Yeah. He said that the art of influence is being able to take people where you want them to go, but because they want to go. Yeah. And the second part is actually the tricky part, because as a leader, sometimes it's like, this is where we want to go. And, I'll take people where I want to go. But influence is being able to take people where you want to go because they want to go with you. You're not forcing them. You're not forcing them. Right. And that is where stories come into play. Because the way that you make anything that you want to communicate relevant and make it desirable for others is by putting it in stories. Right. Without stories, nothing is relevant. Yeah.
Well, I know when I've been in presentations and listening to someone, the ones that are doing the stories and stuff is the ones you're engaged with. Oh, this makes sense. You learn more. And I agree. I think I remember way more versus the other way around. If it's just numbers and we're pounding through stuff, it's like, you check out and you're right. You're on your phone. What's the meme here?
Yeah. You're like, finish quick. Please finish.
Please finish. Well, you're a very accomplished guy. You did this podcast and you have one that you're doing in Latin America.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the number one podcasts over there. What is the premise around that, and who's typically tuning in to listen? Is it mainly business leaders, or is it just a whole wide range of people?
So the reason why I started the podcast, it's kind of I was asking you at the beginning why, how long you've been doing yours, and
sure.
So I actually started mine just as a personal challenge because I started my podcast during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
yeah,
so
that's challenging.
The pandemic hit and everything kind of shut down. I was working at that moment. My 100% of my business was face-to-face, right? And it was with companies, businesses, B2B.
Yeah.
And when the pandemic hit, everything just stopped.
Just stopped, right.
For 6 to 8 months, there was crickets. And I was like, okay, I gotta generate, right? I got a family, I gotta find a way to survive this. I gotta surf the wave. And this was 2020. So podcasts have been around a while, but you've noticed how the last few years they've just exploded, right?
For sure.
So I was hearing about podcasting, but I had never started one. And pandemic hit, and I said, okay, I think this is a good moment. I can be on another platform, stay relevant in a way. But the reason why I actually decided to name the podcast Storytelling Estratégico, which is strategic storytelling in English, is because I wanted to challenge myself to see how much content I could create around one single concept or idea. Because I could have named my podcast, like leadership.
Leadership.
I even had thought of one before I was going to call it El Super Jefe, or the Super Boss.
Oh, really?
Okay. And I even bought the domain of it and everything. And what I was thinking at that time is I'm going to create a podcast where I'm going to be teaching leadership, and communication is one aspect of leadership. So I'll have to talk about communication, but then you can talk about other stuff as well, right? You got a broad spectrum of things when you're talking about leadership.
Yeah.
But I decided to name it Strategic Storytelling because I wanted to see how much content I could create around one single concept or idea. So I was presenting myself as an expert in this. And I was like, let's see if you're an expert in it.
Yeah, how many, good am I really?
Yeah. How many episodes can you really create around one single idea?
Yeah.
And I started. And I didn't even have any expectations of if it was going to generate any impact, if it was going to bring in business, nothing. I just said, I want to see how much content I can create. And I started creating the podcast, and I have a lot of audience on LinkedIn. So I started sharing it on LinkedIn, right? Oh, episode 1 came out, episode 2, and people started engaging with it.
Yeah.
And I started getting feedback. People were saying, "Oh, I love the podcast. It's helping me so much." And then people would write in they'd send me emails like, "Hey, I was listening to episode 10, and I applied that in my meeting, and it went awesome."
Oh, cool.
Or someone's like, "I was looking for a job, and I applied storytelling in the interview, and I got the job." And little testimonies like that, that just started giving me now a new perspective on wow, I'm really helping people. So it's not that I'm just challenging myself to do this.
Yeah.
I'm actually helping people.
Yeah.
And that motivated me even more to just continue creating more content. And initially I had created it thinking if it was going to hit some target, it was going to be more corporate leaders.
Yeah, right.
Because that's where I was in.
Yeah.
But what I saw is that a lot of corporate leaders listen to it, but also a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurs, educators, people who just understand that they have to communicate really well if they want to be successful at what they do.
Absolutely.
And storytelling is one aspect of communication. I always say it's the aspect. There's obviously a lot of aspects to communication, but if you're a good storyteller, that is 80% of being a good public speaker.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
I've been doing public speaking now for 34 years, and I feel really fortunate because I had a story to tell even in the very beginning, even though I wasn't very seasoned in speaking, but because of overcoming drug addiction and alcoholism and things like that, I had a story to tell, and people want to hear, well, you did what? And you went through what? And I just without knowing, I was learning that, oh yeah, telling these stories are powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate enough to kind of learn it the hard way, if you will. But yeah, and then granted, I've had other people, and I've done my research, and I've gone to trainings and things like that. But it all comes back to, I agree with you, that storytelling is so critical. Even us just talking right now, right?
Yeah.
People listening in on our podcast, they're listening to this, and you're creating a story as you're talking, and it's engaging.
Think about this. The people that you connect with the most are the people that you've shared the most stories with. Yeah. So when you think about the people who are in your inner circle, they're the ones that you've shared the most stories with, and usually the most personal, deep stories with. Wow. Because we as human beings, we bond through stories, right? We've been doing this for 100,000 years. Yeah. When we were able to light the first fire, the first thing we started doing was sitting around the fire and telling stories. Now, back in the day, 100,000 years ago, stories were actually part of our survival method, because we would hear stories to talk about the dangers that were outside of our little tribe, right? Because we used to live in small little tribes. So when a warrior would come back from the hunt, he would tell stories about the possible dangers that were outside, and also about the adventures. So anthropologists and people who study humans, they talk about how stories were crucial in getting us to migrate, getting us to go leave our little cave and want to go out and adventure. Because when someone comes in and they tell you, look at the other side of that mountain, there's an incredible world, and they start telling you stories about those, it gets us excited about wanting to go there as well.
Right.
So I actually think that that's part of the reason why we've evolved telling stories, because they at the beginning it was part of our survival. Wow. We would tell stories to protect ourselves. We would tell stories to know where to go hunt. Right. We would tell stories to migrate. And now we tell stories to connect. We tell stories to be able to make things more memorable. And the great thing is that there's science, obviously, that backs all this up now, that stories are the most powerful way that we can communicate when we want to get people to feel. Sure. And if we can get people to feel, we can get people to remember.
Well, you look at all the great spiritual leaders that have ever lived. They were great storytellers. Yeah. Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, they're really good at telling stories. Yeah. And then you remember them more, and then you learn the principle they were trying to teach. Yeah. Right? Because you take business principles and you connect it to a story. Now I'm going to remember that business principle because I connect it with that beautiful story you just shared, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
so
cool.
that is actually part of the strategic storytelling method, right? Okay. It's you can practically use any kind of story if you're able to connect the story to the principle or to the idea that you want that the audience wants to hear or that they want to hear. Yeah. So I always say that stories, even though I focus a lot on the story is just the vehicle. It's a means to an end. The end is the idea that you're trying to get across. The end is the message that if your audience understands will generate impact and change in their life. Yeah. And the story is just the vehicle to make sure that message or that idea hits home.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
So a lot of times we just focus on the idea. And when we communicate ideas or messages just from brain to brain, doesn't stick. Yeah. That's the truth. It doesn't stick. Just information by itself is not enough to generate change. We have to be able to communicate information with emotion to be able to impact or influence people's decisions and actions. Right. Right. And stories are the best vehicle to do that, because stories just internally, they come connected with emotions.
Gotcha. Love it. So what does your day look like? I mean, what does a day in a life look like for you? Because you've been, obviously today was a really crazy, busy day for you. And, and you're obviously taking time to be with us, which again, I'm so grateful for. Tell us about, what does a day look like? Do you have a morning routine? What do you do to kind of keep yourself centered and prepared to teach and to help people learn how to storytell and all that stuff and keep your energy up and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So I like to stay active, right?
Okay.
I'm 40 years old now, and I have a 16-year-old son who plays basketball.
Oh, nice.
So I stay active with my son. We play a lot of basketball together.
Can he beat you?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. So I played high school basketball, and then I played college basketball in Chile. So I was in the basketball world a lot, and it's always been one of my passions. Basketball is something I've always loved.
Yeah.
And I want to hopefully extend that and be able to play as long as I can right now, even though now I just play for fun.
Sure, yeah.
So I stay active playing basketball at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Nice.
And then the days that I don't play basketball, I just run on the treadmill in the mornings. Just keep the cardio up. And then my son now and my daughter who's 14, they kind of take me to the gym to do weights 3 times a week. So
nice.
I'm always I think taking care of yourself physically is important, right?
For sure,
because that keeps your mind also healthy. And then once my day, like business day starts, right now I'm in a stage, since I'm just starting my business here in the United States, where I'm positioning my brand here, right? In Latin America, my brand is already well known, and I work with a lot of big businesses and things, but we're going to be staying now here in the States, which means that, I still obviously have some clients in Latin America and people that follow me there, but my focus is how do I build my business here? Okay. So I'm in that initial entrepreneurial phase where you're just building out a brand, where you're doing a lot of networking, where you're doing a lot of connections, having a lot of meetings so people can know who you are and what you do. Yeah. And then also just creating a lot of content. Yeah. Right. Creating content, because today it's not easy, but it's obviously very effective, where you're creating content and that brings in people too, who engage with what you're doing. So a lot of my day, even though I try not to like keep every single minute full, because I also believe in flexibility and I got 4 kids, so I also spend time with them and
that keeps you busy.
It keeps me busy as well. But a lot of my day now is I'm either coaching clients. A lot of them are from Latin America still. Yeah. I'm doing a lot of like meetings and networking with people here. And then I'm constantly creating content every Mondays. Mondays are my content days. So Mondays I use the mornings to create content in Spanish and the afternoons to create my content in English for the whole week.
It's a busy day on Monday.
It's busy days on Mondays. Wow. Yeah, it's a creative, right? But I love that, because I think like one of the things that I'm always very attracted to is creativity. So I think Mondays, even though I like the days where I'm having meetings and then I'm doing workshops or keynotes, Mondays to me, where I just can sit down and create content.
You just that's
one of my
jam,
favorite things. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things.
So you do individual coaching, and then you also will coach like teams and corporations and organizations. Is that right?
Yeah. So a lot of the individuals are now more B2C, directly to consumer. Like
gotcha.
The people who hire me more for one-on-one things are entrepreneurs or they're business leaders who just wanna have a training with me one-on-one. Maybe their business is not offering them that, but they still want to learn it because they see it as a skill set that will help them in their professional life, their personal life. So my kind of my promise with them is I have an 8-week program, right? And I tell them, look, in 8 weeks, I'll help you be a professional storyteller. Wow. In 8 weeks, I'll help you do what probably would take you like 8 years by yourself. I'll do it in 8 weeks with you. But it's very intensive.
Oh, I can imagine.
And you have to commit to it, and I'll take you through the whole process, the whole process of learning how to find stories, how to craft stories, and how to tell stories. Wow. And then at the end of that process, and week to week, they have challenges where they're going to be practicing it. And at the end of the process, they have to be able to do everything and be able to craft a story from an idea, and then be able to tell that story in a way that engages and connects. And they have an evaluation at the beginning and evaluation at the end. So that's more of like my one-on-one B2C. Yeah. And then businesses hire me a lot to do, workshops, keynotes, and then sometimes they'll ask me to help leaders who have to create a presentation and they just want them to do it really, really well, like a TED Talk type of thing. Yeah. And I'll go in there and I'll help and consult with them on how to create a good speech.
I love that. Do you also get people who are pretty seasoned already as speakers, but they're just trying to sharpen up, and do they come to you and say, hey, this needs some, sharpening up and some tune-ups?
Yeah. So I've trained like TED speakers and people who give conferences and keynotes. The thing is that even though like like you were saying, when you got into the speaking world, there was, you kind of figure that, telling stories, really engages. One thing is like telling stories, and then the other is like having a methodology to it. And it's almost like, I always say, like, even the pros, right? Like I love the NBA and basketball. So even like the basketball pros, they're awesome basketball players, but they all have a shooting coach, or a conditioning coach, because once you get really good at something, now the real upgrade comes in that 1%, right? Like I'm here. The reason why I came back to the States is because I came to study a master's in professional communications.
Yeah.
And when I came to do this, a lot of my friends in Latin America were like, "What? You're already an expert in communication. Like you train people in this. What are you doing? Like you're gonna invest, X amount of dollars to do a master's in professional communications?" And I told them, I'm like, "Look, man, like I know I'm good at communication.
Yeah.
But I'm not just trying to be good at it. I'm trying to be great. And greatness comes a lot of times when you're good at something in that final 1 or 2%.
Boy, I love that.
So when I train speakers, people who are already doing things where they're getting paid to speak, a lot of times they come to me because they're like, "Look, I already tell stories and stuff, but I just tell stories like I think I got to tell stories. Like there's no methodology to it. I've never worked with someone who's an expert at this." So when I do train them, at the end of the process, a lot of times they're like, "This is a before and after." Like I never thought that to create a good story, there was so much art to it, so much technique. And once they understand that, now their stories go to another level.
Wow. I love it. That's awesome. If someone wants to use your services and reach out to you to learn more about what you do, like what's the best way for someone to do that to get a hold of you and learn more about your methodology?
Well, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a lot on LinkedIn.
That's how we met.
That's how we met,
which
right?
is really cool. LinkedIn's awesome for that.
LinkedIn is great.
Right?
That's one of the things I've been using it a lot to do networking and connect with people, and that's been awesome. So LinkedIn is a way. You can find me, Cesar Castro, on LinkedIn, and just send me a DM, or you can go to my website, right? www.cesarcastro.com. Yeah, which is my English version of my website, and there's like a little. Like a little, like a little form at the end if someone has a question or wants to know more about my services, and you can send me a little message through there, and happy to reply, and obviously from there we can see what people are needing. Yeah, and we'll put all those links in the show notes when we go live, so everyone can just click right to you and get to you. But I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I think it's amazing how it came to be. I have a big belief that life happens for us. Mm-hmm. And as hard as I'm sure it was that your brother who passed, who wasn't able to communicate, but yet it almost trained you with this creativity, using his voice, what he would say. And it led to, look what you get to do now. And you're like, you're helping people become masters at storytelling. And how cool is that, right? I mean, and what a way to honor your brother. Yeah. At the end of the day, don't you think? I mean, to me, that is the ultimate purpose. Obviously, you do this as a business and you make money doing it and everything. But to me, knowing that I can honor my brother, knowing that I can tell the stories that he was never able to tell, that to me is what moves me. For sure, is what moves me. And I love it. And if somebody, whether it be a client or someone that listens to a story that I tell at some point, if I'm able to tell something or give them share a story that impacts their life, that to me is the ultimate reward for what I do. Yeah, I love that. And knowing that in a way, by doing that, I'm also honoring my brother, who I'm sure would have been an awesome communicator. Yeah, right. That is the ultimate. And, awesome. And I think that when we do things, whatever we're doing professionally, when we're doing it with purpose, I'm sure what you're doing too is purpose. It's not just, it's my business, it's purpose. Yeah, there's a purpose behind it. I think when we're in that purpose, and usually if you see all purposes are somehow connected to helping others, to being someone who hopefully makes life a little easier for someone else. Like when we find those purposes that are not about us, are about others, I think that's when we find something that little spark that gives us the energy. Wow. Beautifully said. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this one last question here. And I like to ask this with all my guests. Okay. If there's someone listening to you right now who is in a dark place, they're struggling, and they're just, because a lot of times my listeners come here looking for some inspiration because they're really in a dark spot in their life. Yeah. And
and obviously you've been through some things in your life, and you've fought through some challenges and things like that. What would you tell that person right now to maybe help them and give them some hope?
What helps me to remember is that no matter what I'm going through, there's always a good story that will come out at the other side.
Yeah.
And sometimes even the hardest moments in life, like the switch that's actually helped me a lot to face challenges in my life, is when I'm going through a rough patch. I'm always thinking, this is going to be a good story someday. Because
That's a good way to look at it.
The best stories are usually, the most complicated ones too, right?
Right.
We don't go, when we go to the theater or when we're reading a good book, we don't go just because it's all good, it's all roses, right? We go because we want to hear or watch the struggle.
Yeah.
That we're attracted to the struggle. But even though people are going through struggles, we always know that at the end, there's going to be something good that comes from it. And that is, if you think about it, that's kind of the cycle, constant cycle of even a story, right? There's a struggle, and we always know somehow, some way at the end, the main character is going to end better than how it started.
That's so true, right?
And I think that is the metaphor of life.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to go through struggles. There's no way you can avoid that. So I would first start there. Like, know that if you're going through struggle, you're alive, right? Because that's part of life.
Right.
But know that just like any good story, there's always going to be a happy ending at the end.
Yeah.
If you're able to stay with it long enough.
Yeah.
For me, remembering that principle has actually helped me. Like, it's helped me to, even when I'm going through those struggles, know that there's going to be, the sun will come out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And when the sun comes out tomorrow, not only will I feel better, but I'm going to have a good story to tell. Story to tell myself, and a story to hopefully tell others, to inspire them to also know that there's going to be a better tomorrow.
Wow. That is beautifully said. And I agree with that because, again, if life happens for us, you're going through this. So one day you can be the person that will help someone who might be going through the same thing you went through.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, man, you're amazing. You're very well spoken. I love what you do. I'm so glad we connected. I think it's great that you fought through what you needed to be able to be in a position to do this. You're starting this now here in America.
Yeah.
I'm sure if it was good there, it's going to be just as good here. And I'd love to help in that. So we're going to promote this as much as we can. I'm going to send as many people as we possibly can. And I'm going to challenge our listeners right now to reach out to you, ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you want to be a better storyteller, whether it's with your business, with your family, with your partner, reach out to you and learn from the best here, Yeah, so I can't thank you enough for spending some time in your busy schedule to be with me today.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm happy that I had this conversation with you.
Yeah.
And that I was able to travel here, a beautiful place as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best of luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, there you go, folks, man. I told you, Cesar Castro, beautiful name, beautiful man, great person, doing great things. Tune in every week. I love you guys for doing that. Share this with anyone you know who needs to be inspired. And if you want to be a better storyteller or and you're struggling, whether it's a personal level or if it's in a business level, reach out to Cesar and he will help you out. Again, we'll have all the links in the show notes that you guys can just click right on it. Again, thanks to my sponsors. Thanks to the music that you heard at the beginning and the end of this episode. It's by my good friend, Paul Cardall. He's an amazing human being. I love him. So thank you, Paul, for letting us use your music. And I love all of you. Thank you so much. And again, Cesar, one last thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.